I'm Manuel Martinez. I'm from Gainesville, Florida. And whenever I have to check those boxes on any kind of a form, it always gets me to thinking about all the various ways that one might answer them and all the complexities that arise because of them.
My son Dagan is biracial, but he and I have very different ideas about what that means. His mother, my ex-wife, is white. There's also some mixture in my background, but when I fill out my census form or apply for a passport, I check the box marked non-Latino black. The conflicts Dagan and I have about identity came up when we started filling out applications for summer enrichment programs, or most recently for college. The first time Dagan had to fill out an application that didn't have a box for mixed or biracial, he was angry. Just put down black, I told him. That's the convention for people who are mixed. But I'm as much white as I am black, he said. I teach college. One of the indispensable skills of the profession is the ability to cut off discussion by speaking in a tone that suggests you know more about a subject than you actually do. That's the tone I used when I said, you'll just cause confusion if you don't provide the traditional answer given by people who are mixed. But my son is smarter than I am. He grew up hearing me try to sound as if I know what I'm talking about. I'm not black, he said, so I shouldn't say that I am. He is stubborn, so I could not convince him otherwise. Now, if there is no box for biracial, he writes it in or leaves it blank, depending upon his mood. It troubles me that my son refuses to share my racial identity. He looks so much like me that a man once came up to us in the grocery store, sized us both up, and said, "The woman, she no lie." Until we began filling out forms together, we never discussed race, mainly because he seemed so oblivious to it. When he was younger and I would meet would meet a cousin or an uncle at a family gathering, he would ask whether the person was related to his mother or to me. It took him a while to realize that all of his relatives were color-coded for easy identification. His insistence on not being black also troubles me because of my own complicated relationship with my identity. My mother is black with no qualifiers or complications, but my father is Louisiana Creole, which is mostly black with some Spanish, French, Indian, and possibly a few other groups mixed in. My father is as dark as I am, but his mother was light enough to pass for white even when she didn't want to. Whoever filled out my father's birth certificate looked at my grandmother, assumed she was white, and wrote white on the line for race. Later, someone crossed out white and scribbled in black above it. When my dark-skinned grandfather, my light-skinned grandmother, and their four variously shaded children traveled, they could not legally sleep in most motels. My grandfather would pull around to the back of the building so that my grandmother could register for a room. Everyone else would sneak in later. One of my grandmother's sisters lived as a white woman. The darker members of the family could only visit at night when they couldn't be seen by the neighbors. My identity is also complicated because of my name. The name Manuel Martinez goes back to my great-great-grandfather who emigrated from Spain. And I grew up in Miami, so people always ask me where I am from, meaning am I Cuban, Dominican, or Puerto Rican? For a while, I would try to explain the origins of my name, but people would look at me suspiciously as if I was ashamed of my Latino background. So when I was asked that question as a teenager and young adult, I would answer, I'm from nowhere. But I wasn't ashamed of my Latino roots. I didn't have any. I was ashamed of my black roots. I'm not proud of the fact that as a teenager I talked about my family history as a way of saying I'm not as black as my skin might suggest. But the older I get, the more important it is for me to identify myself as black. That's why I want Dagan to check the same box that I do. I have chosen a team, and I want him to be on it with me. Dagan is a vegetarian, so the family gumbo and most any other foods that define us ethnically are lost on him. About the only thing that could connect him to my heritage are the hours he spent in childhood listening to the best of James Brown. But he probably spent as much time listening to the best of Johnny Cash. He is my only child, my parents' only grandchild. He is the only one capable of carrying on our branch of the family. If he does have children, how much will they know about those of us who came before them? We are supposed to look with contempt at parents who cannot accept their children's intermarriages, who refuse to embrace their children's partners as members of the family. But when my son refuses to check the box marked black, I can empathize with Tevier from Fiddler on the Roof, who can adapt to anything except for his daughter's insistence on marrying a Gentile. That is the one change that will separate him from his descendants, the one that will erase him from history. We use our heritage to keep death at bay. We want our children to be like us so that we can live on forever as a link in a chain that stretches farther back than we can remember. But if we look closely at that chain, we can see that there is no uniformity in its links. When we focus too much on race and ethnicity, we can forget all of the other ways of defining who we are. When Dagan refuses to check the same box that I check, I feel as if part of me is slipping away. But in my best moments, I feel freed from the limitations that come from definitions, and I can become as oblivious to race as he was when he was a child.